And on today's show, the 4 phases of growth and career satisfaction. Part 1 of this week's series on the advisor's pathway to freedom with Charter Life underwriter and creator of the Cotton Systems, Wayne Cotton. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author to Background Technician and Innsmark. Let's get down to business. Welcome to the show, Wayne.
Thank you, Steve.
Wayne, you have been around forever, just like I am. We're the old fossils of the organization here.
Yeah,
I have to say, listen, I'm looking at your resume here. This is quite a pedigree. You've qualified for MDRT, top of the table, quarter of the table, 21 of the 28 years. People always look at you as, oh, he's the cotton system guy, but they don't realize that you're a producer as well.
Yeah, I mean, my whole background is production. That's my credibility, my love, my understanding. I mean, that's where everything came from, was 28 years as an advisor.
You've been a platform speaker for many of these organizations. You've given over 1,000 industries. You're all over the place. I saw you at a convention here about 3 or 4 months ago. Wayne, when I'm looking at this, the reason I bring up your pedigree and your resume is because I want people to know what we're going to talk about isn't coming from the mind of some kind of life coach or some kind of motivational speaker. We're talking about a person that produces major premium, understands securities, understands finance, retirement. You're doing this, you're a practice. This is what you do every day. And you're now applying these measures to all these things we're going to talk about all this week.
Yeah, with one correction, Steve, and that is that I'm no longer in the field. I sold my practice 18 years ago. So it was interesting. I had a serious motorcycle accident, spent 35 days in intensive care, and when I come out of the ozone, I realized I had 2 major businesses going. One was my financial practice, the other one was the information and publishing and speaking business, which was doing multiples of my practice. And so I decided that I was going to sell my practice, which I did, and I'm happy to report it's still in the same location with the same name on the door, and the guy that runs it is a top of the table member and going strong. So I'm really excited about that legacy because I think it proves that what I built, based on the foundation of principles and processes, is something that makes such a difference in the longevity of a practice.
Now the title of this now is called the Cotton Client Acquisition System. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, talk a little bit about that, and then we'll get into our segment.
Well, very simply, marketing is the key to business success. And in my discovery, I failed miserably. I mean, I went through just absolute horror in the beginning stages of the business until I built this thing for me. I didn't do it for anybody else. It was totally for me. Had no intention whatsoever of sharing with anyone. But as I started to speak and got in the circuit a bit and people started asking me lots of questions, people said, you got to deliver this stuff to us. How does this work? How do you do? So I started publishing in 1981. So I've been publishing since then, several phases and stages and so on. But it helps advisors get in front of the right prospective clients for their level of competence and confidence. That's what this system is all about. And
this system's been around for how many years?
Well, it started in '81, and it's gone through lots of phases and so on. But it's here alive and well. And
you have career companies using this?
Actually, in the '90s, I did a lot of work with career companies. Launched with 27 companies in North America, 6 in Australia. I had an office down there. And but I've kind of moved away from that whole world. I'm spending a lot more time with individual advisors, where I can deal directly with the person that I'm dealing with.
Now, I've noticed you've distilled this down to kind of where do advisors actually live? And you use this phrase like they live in 4 houses. You list them out. Talk to me about the first one called the House of Pain.
Well, you know, it's amazing how many people live in the House of Pain. Like, absolutely amazing. I do surveys all the time. And the House of Pain means that you're underwater. It means that you're really not accomplishing what you need to accomplish. You're really not getting where you need to go. Your expenses are bigger than your income. You know, a friend of mine, Mark Victor Hansen, the Chicken Soup for the Soul guy, met Mark many, many years ago. And one of the things he said to me was, Wayne, if your outgo exceeds your income, your upkeep will be your downfall. Well, there's a lot of things you can do to adjust that formula. But for me, I had to figure out how I could get my income way up so that I could live a normal life. And so I went through just horror trying to get together. But I see a lot of advisors who are still in that situation, many more than you would expect, who really are struggling.
What is the House of Same, S-A-M-E?
House of Same means you're in the same old, same old. You're in a rut. And it's just a long old rut where you're not getting anywhere. You're just doing the same thing year in and year out. And you know, you're doing okay. I mean, you can afford to take holidays and you can pay your mortgage payments and you're accumulating a few bucks and whatever, but it's just the same old thing. And so the House of Same, to me, is also not a great place to be because you got more potential in it. I mean, my skill is helping ordinary advisors become extraordinary advisors. And that's all about getting out of those bottom 2 houses, House of Pain and House of Same, and moving forward to a much higher level.
What is the House of Gain? Although that one sounds more appealing.
Yeah, it is. House of Gain is where you're doing really well. Like you've got a very significant level of money freedom. And with the money freedom, it means that you have all the income that you require to run your practice effectively, to live a really great life. You can go do and enjoy the things you want to go and do and enjoy. And you don't have the financial pressures. Now, once again, there's a fairly small percentage of people that get to that level, but obviously there's people in our business who get there, who are generating an excellent level of income. They can live a great life. They can invest in assets. They can, get where they want to go. So a house of gain is a really good place to be.
When we come back from the break, we're going to talk more to Wayne about not only the House of Sane, but some of the insidious issues of being too busy.
Yeah, right on.
We'll be right back after the break. It's not how much money you make for your clients, it's how much money they get to keep, especially in retirement. But retirement income could cause Social Security benefits to be taxed. One tax advantage alternative is life insurance designed as a non-modified endowment contract that can generate tax-free income without taxing Social Security benefits. These contracts offer differing funding options depending upon your client's risk tolerance. For more information on how life insurance can be part of your retirement planning, just email me at steve@downtobusiness.tv. Brought to you by Ash Brokerage, the practice enhancement company. Well, welcome back to the second segment. Of course, we're with Wayne Cotton. Wayne, we're talking about the procedures, the processes, the protocols, and we talked about House of Pain last segment, House of Sane, House of Gain. Now I want to talk about House of Sane. I almost want to say, is this the House of Insane or just the Sane?
Well, the other houses are insane. This one is sane.
Okay, I'll take it.
A House of Sane means that you've gone beyond all the busyness and you've got to the point where you have time freedom. There's a lot of people that are very successful in our business. I mean, they're doing a lot of business, big numbers, but they have no freedom mentally. Like they can't walk away from it. They're so caught up in it all the time.
Is it necessary to have the freedom?
Yeah, absolutely. Mental and time freedom are important things. I mean, you got to be able to go and enjoy the things you want to go and do and enjoy with the freedom to enjoy that. And so many people are just stuck in busyness all the time that they can't really enjoy in the bigger picture.
How insidious is the impact of just being busy all the time?
Well, I had 2 strokes as a result of being busy in my head. Does that help to answer? See, what happens is...
Are you drawing a correlation to your medical issue by being so over busy?
Totally.
It overtaxed you that much?
Totally. Absolutely.
Wow.
See, a lot of people have a busy mind. Busy, busy, busy. They're always thinking, always churning, always burning. Thoughts are coming here, there, everywhere. And when you get to that stage where you're thinking all the time, in my case, I'd go to bed at midnight because my wife's a night owl. I'd be wide awake at 4 o'clock without an alarm. And my mind is moving, right? So I'm up and I'm moving, I'm doing my thing, and away I go again. And even, I talked to my kids about this. My daughter said, "Dad, you were never there." And I said, "Tamara, what do you mean I was never there?" And she says, "Dad, you could beat all of us kids down to the bottom of the ski hill, all us teenagers, but you were thinking about something else." And she knew.
So they picked up on it.
Oh, sure, my son too. So the bottom line is, being too busy in your head is the issue. We're all busy.
So we have a lot of people that are highly successful advisors.
Yeah.
And they're so busy that this is now complicating even their personal life.
Of course it is. Of course it is. Has a big downside impact. And so for me, it was a couple of strokes and a lot of other things as well. So it's important to really get clarity of what we want and to get that achievement of this House of Sane where we're thinking clearly and effectively all the time.
All right, so a lot of the fourth one, when we talk about the House of Sane, these are people that are actually advisors that are very profitable, high producers,
Totally.
High achievers, but they themselves, they haven't taken time out. They're so busy that it's controlling their entire life.
They might be taking time out, but in their heads they're not. That's the difference, right?
So they need to disconnect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, how much of when you laid out the Cotton system years ago, it was a protocol, it was a system, it was a track to run on. That's what we were looking for. And many people adopted it. They didn't know how to go down the road. They didn't know how to build their practice. They didn't know how to expand their business. This was very profitable, and I just want to give you kudos for my own self, being a young rep, seeing it for the first time. It was a huge issue.
Cool.
But now I'm asking you, you look at this thing, how do I simplify my practice so that I can actually still be a high performer, but disengage when I need to, so that my daughter doesn't come back to me and say, "You were there physically, but you were never there mentally"?
Yeah, absolutely. Frank Sullivan, MDRT past president, said there's 3 stages of growth. First one is wide-eyed enthusiasm. We get in the business, we're excited, motivated, whatever, but we quickly drop into the second phase called complicated sophistication. And in that stage, everything gets complicated. You're trying to figure out who you are and who you should be working with and what products you should be selling and what systems you should be using and all these questions. Problem is, most people never get out of complicated sophistication. They spend their whole career in complicated sophistication, and what Sullivan talked about was a third stage called mature simplicity, With mature simplicity, you don't complicate everything, you simplify everything. You know, Einstein once said any intelligent fool can complicate things, but it takes a special touch of genius to simplify. And that's what's going on. We're adding all this complication to everything to the point where we get this huge bundle of complexity. And the question now is, how do we simplify it so we can move forward and be productive and be happy and do what we want to do?
Your system is very much on the business side. Does the Cotton system actually address any of these issues?
No, Cotton system is only about client acquisition, so building the right clientele of the right people. These are about the Cotton principles of growth. These principles, 5 principles that I defined my 25th year in my career, I've been using them now for many years. I don't know, what is this, 47, 48 years I've been in the business. But I've been teaching them for many years. And these 5 principles, which we're going to get into, they are critical to people getting away from the complication and moving forward to mature simplicity.
Now, people think that, hey, won't I suffer my production? Won't it suffer if I do this?
No, it'll go way up.
See, this is the trade-off. So you're saying actually this is really hurting your practice by not disengaging, and we'll show you how to do that and talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, tell me, you're talking about the 5 critical principles of growth. The first thing you talk about is graphic, right? When you're looking at something that really brings a person's life to bear, I kind of always have imagined, what does that look like? What's the graphic look like in my head?
I just did a workshop for high-end advisors, successful people. I called it the Pathway to Freedom. And we focus on money freedom and time freedom, the freedom to grow and career satisfaction. My goal for them, as I stated when we opened, was I want you to understand how to get to $1 million of personal income, not your practice revenue, but your personal income. I want you to get to $1 million of personal income and 180 days off.
Wow. And
I mean, I did that and you know, built a very successful practice. I mean, at my peak, doing 9 times MDRT, I was only in the office 65 afternoons a year.
Like, oh, that's astounding.
Yeah, but that's about these principles, right? So that was my goal for this group. And by the time we ended 3 days together up in the mountains in BC, by the time we finished these 3 days together, every single one of them have total clarity of how they can do that. And their incomes are ranging from $350 to $650, that group. So they're doing well, but not big. And so now all of them see how they can move there. And I expected some of them to choose, well, okay, I'll do that in 3 or 4 years. Every single one of them wants to do it in 2015, and they now have the tools and the processes and the principles to do that.
That's exciting. Listen, that's all the time we have for today. Remember, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, always consult your tax advisor, legal counsel, or your broker-dealer compliance officer. Missed an episode? Just hop out to our video archives. And remember, you could be wiser as an educated advisor. I'm Steve Savant. We'll see you tomorrow.